Educating, informing, serving. Fact TV, keeping government honest.
Wyndham Northeast Union Elementary School District to order. We'll be meeting until 6:30, at which time the full board will be meeting. But we should start out with if there are any public members of the public. There are not. And let us start then and discuss the budget. It's on the public, right on the public website, I believe, too.
Right, yeah.
If anybody's interested in that, they should be. Liz Hardy is in Florida doing things that we should all want to be doing, hanging out with our kids.
And there were no adjustments to the agenda?
There are no, I'm assuming there are no adjustments to the agenda. Thank you for that.
So to go into the budget discussion.
Then we are into the budget discussion. And we have, I hope that everybody had a chance to look at the documents that are being sent out in semi-real time as they're being generated. I'm hoping we'll have Chris in here to sort of do the quick overview, and then we discuss a couple of things.
Jack, one of the things I'd like some help with, as you know, I've been traveling, and I was handed a copy of what I believe to be the latest version of the consolidated budget. And I'm just not sure that we're all working with the same one.
I think that that's extremely important, and one of the reasons I want to quick grab. This is going to be a little bit raggedy because we really are. Because of the timing, we've had to meet tonight in order to have a budget that we could talk to people about at pre-town, but that's conflicted with every other thing in our process. And because these budgets were generated about 2 weeks later than I.
Well, how about several months later?
Well, yes.
That too.
Just for those watching, we normally do budgets in October and November. We usually approve them in January, and we actually prefer to do them before the end of the year. People get very antsy when we don't do them before Christmas, and it's a little past that. And one of the reasons why we are meeting in April rather than meeting in March with everybody else in town meetings is because it became really clear that either all the budgets weren't going to be prepared in a timely fashion, or somebody could volunteer to take the hit, because we are the only ones that have the option of meeting separately from our town meeting folks. We took the hit and we're meeting in April, and so this seemed like a timely thing, but we really did expect to have budgets done on or before the 1st of February, and here we are. So I want people to be aware of that. This week we were getting pieces of this sort of in real time, and right at the moment I don't have administrators to speak to it besides Doug. Certainly, if you want to speak on behalf of administration, I'm thinking I would want to. Let me go see if I can go. Let's take a brief recess for 5 minutes, and let me see if we can get our superintendent on the meeting back in order. Again, it's now about 10 till the hour, and Edie Cole from our finance office has joined us. And Edie, what we're hoping to do, these are updates to the papers from before? Nothing, or what do we got here?
No, I just made copies for
Okay.
anyone who didn't have them.
All right, let's, do you have, papers?
I have all the papers here.
The ones that you just passed out?
Yeah, I
Yes,
just
you
Okay.
gave
gave
them
them
to
to me
her.
first.
Okay,
I do need to run back into the other meeting for a minute,
all right.
but our agenda's pretty loose. Is there,
If we vote on.
is there
things,
proposed changes to the budget coming?
I'm curious what that version that Jack and Sherilyn that you just. I have the 2:14:20 version, and it looked like the bottom line had changed by almost double from what I was. So
Well-
I'm not 100%. Like when we, I don't know what happened, but like when we met, it was like 60,000 cut, and then this version has 113,000 cut.
Right, I went through all the staffing
Okay.
and all the benefits. When we met, I had not done that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because I was waiting to meet with you to see what your changes were.
Okay.
Can you summarize those for us though, because they are discrepant?
Oh, it's, I'm trying to remember.
Do we have an extra version of that?
I don't think the SU assessments were finalized. No, when I send out on the 14th, it should have matched.
Edie, is it possible this had some of the potential items that we could discuss about the budget? Because remember, we had said that we want to present the budget, but we also want to present some alternative things for people to discuss. Is that what this second bottom line is referring to?
No,
We-
I went through and whatever I sent you an email, it should match.
I don't think it does, just looking at the tax form. Hang on a
Right,
second.
and we'll be able to tell real quickly if you count.
Because
the-
I haven't changed it, I just ran the report.
Yeah, this might, I'm just wondering if this is there may be an error here. I think let me just check. Is the staffing the same for both?
Yeah, the only difference was Tanya Riley belongs to Grafton, not to Westminster.
Right, okay, good.
And I did change and to Masters 1. And I also changed Emily Urquhart to Masters 1. That would make the difference.
So again, those are like, in theory, new hire
Yeah,
budgeting amounts. for
And they're
replacements.
listed in red as new higher budgeting amount.
right. So that would probably be your difference, but when I mailed out the revised one, because they finally got the report the way I needed it, it should match. I don't have my laptop. I gave it to the, I gave it to the
Audit
auditors.
folks, of course.
And Jack, do you have an extra version of
Because
that?
they needed to be able to get into ADS.
Okay, is this is a full budget thing?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so I did modify those two people.
Okay.
I went through all the salaries, all the benefits, all the assessments.
Thank you.
Sorry, I thought we did that earlier.
I did set up new codes for the assessments so that they go under the Union Elementary, not under
Right,
Athens, Grafton, and West. I also did that for advertising, legal fees, and the board.
This is not the same as the 214.
But I sent you a new one. What day was that? She finally fixed it
Oh,
on,
the 17th.
yep,
Okay, let me look at that one. And then the tax,
and the tax sheet would have changed too because of the two personnel that were in Westminster.
is that the revenue? Yeah.
The revenue went out with the expenditures.
I'm not
so
finding
Jack,
a
if I could
tax.
just ask,
You go ahead.
Edie, just for clarification, we are getting on the same page, so thank you.
Right.
So the budget that you handed out a few minutes ago with the savings of 115,000
Right.
approximately, or the,
Yep.
the
Right.
variance. The personnel within that large, complete budget here corresponds to this list that you've
Yep.
shown us? Okay, that, I wanted to be
Yep.
comfortable with that as well.
I needed to do this
Right.
because what was pulling from payroll
Mm-hmm.
wasn't correct.
Mm-hmm.
Some people were doubled, some of their benefits were way off. So the only way I could be sure that I had not only all the people, but the correct salary and benefits was to go through each person individually and fill in this and total it so that I could get this right. We've done a lot of work on payroll, but there's still a lot of work left to do. But it's made it tough when you can't just extract a report.
Oh, I know.
But I did, I checked every single salary benefit. I rechecked the assessments. I went through every single line item. The only thing that I added was $350 for the Grafton truancy officer. I don't think by the new term that it uses, Liz realized what it was. I think it's under student support. And so I did add that because that's always a cost. But that's the only thing that I added. Everything else was just making sure all the numbers were right. And it's possible the way that the report was formatting before, there might have been an error, but I thought that we checked everything. I did find that when the FY20 budget was put into fund accounting, because of all the different line items and all new numbers had to be set up, the after-school program at Westminster budget was never entered.
I saw that. you
So
fixed
I
that.
did get that entered. Because you have to go into 3 different places to add an account number to then be able to add a budget.
So this budget, just to be clear,
Yep,
still holds 2 principals, still has we didn't change anything there, we didn't change anything in terms of the citywide programs, none of that stuff. This is all,
Yep.
this new number, it has all that intact, there's been no,
nope.
okay.
I went through every single line item. I also made sure there weren't any duplications, that I didn't add something. And then in the next column, the principals hadn't added. So I did get rid of any duplications.
All right.
It's still, oh, go ahead.
No.
Doug, did you have something?
No, you go first.
My understanding as I look at it is that it also still has a .2 art teacher for Grafton, a .8 for Westminster, that the librarian is shared, as we had talked
That's
about
right.
before. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
So I'm feeling, Doug, this is looking right to you and is looking consistent with what?
I mean, it doesn't look consistent, but the numbers probably are, just like, every report, from.
Well, I sent you a revised one after she did the report, and I made sure I had all the changes.
Yeah.
It wasn't the 14th though, because she just gave me the new budget report. I think it was Tuesday.
So
I
the
kind of
last-
lost track of the days.
The last email I have is from February 13th. In my account.
Did you somehow
It
get
looks
dropped
like-
off?
It looks like for some reason I went in and it looks like people started using my personal email instead of the other one, and it's an account I don't utilize.
When I've sent stuff to that, I've always CC'd your personal one, and this stuff would not have been part of, I wouldn't have been sending you that
Because
stuff.
my last
I
email
thought I sent
under
it to
my, you know,
That-
SU
that- then
is
that-
from the 13th.
That's one of those email things where it picks up the first and just sends it to you.
Yeah.
That's-
Yep.
That we
I would
always-
have to go back and look. I did not check and make sure everyone was still on the email string. I just was adding stuff and getting it sent out.
Right, Tuesday is the date that I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Edie, when we send traffic, I always look, and so I'm gonna own some of that, because if I didn't see that change, I should have, because part of my job is to guard everybody's private email when we have these mass correspondences, and if that happened, it shouldn't have. Even if I didn't do it, it's still my responsibility to make sure that stuff doesn't get waylaid.
Yeah,
and
I just don't
sorry
want to
do
miss
that.
something, you know?
No, that's not okay. Well, let's take a few minutes, shall we, and just, look at these, and then I want to talk about whether people are comfortable with these numbers, and I'm going to throw a little bit of sand in your gears and ask about a couple other things.
I think I missed the revenue sheet. I can
Yeah,
go
that-
up and print that when
Let's-
we're ready.
Actually, this would be a fine time to go do that.
Okay.
Let's take yet another recess.
And I'll check Melissa and see if you're on that email.
Okay, thank
All right.
you.
Yeah. Well, normally those don't change because I just keep emailing the same group.
What we're talking about,
Somehow
Yeah.
somebody changed it.
just for the public record,
Yeah.
it is the official policy
Yeah.
of all school districts and all constituent elements of this and all other districts, that all correspondence be either originate on or be CC'd to our WNESU.com emails. The reason for this is they are the only official record. The reason for that is because in the event of any litigation or questions, we want to make absolutely certain that there is no legitimate reason to ask people to share their personal email with America. And we will not do that, and it always should go to the official email. And when we don't, that's a problem to be rectified.
Absolutely.
All right, so Edie,
I
continue
will
with
check.
where you were talking about this. And am I supposed to send this around?
No, yeah, that's the revenue sheet.
Right, and this one copy will be for
Jessa?
Jessa when she gets it, and we
Well,
have.
Doug needs a copy. I've got an
and Doug-
extra one.
And Doug has a copy, and,
Yeah.
all right.
This is the same one you sent around.
Let's just make
Yes,
sure it
on
is. There's no-
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Right,
I
okay.
kind of lost track.
Okay,
All right.
I have a couple of questions about the actual budget. Is this a good time?
Sure.
This is absolutely the time.
Okay.
So in looking at, the health insurance, is it spread out, most of the time, the increase is about 12 to 13%.
Mm-hmm.
But on the first page, line 5211, we're looking at a 35% increase, and I just wonder why it was different than most others. This is the first page of the budget.
Right.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I got that
5211.
checked as well.
We had an employee that wasn't taking insurance, but we had a change in employees at Grafton.
Okay,
That one change made that big a difference? Okay, yeah, because really small numbers at mine.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, but insurance is going up anywhere from, I think 12 to 15%.
That's what I was typically seeing, so that one
Yeah.
just caught my eye.
Yeah.
Yep, but yeah, change in personnel.
No.
Not this,
Right.
okay, our pages aren't numbered, but the line is 5341, non-technology repair and maintenance. Not that it's a huge number, but it's a 62% increase.
Which school?
5341.
There's other professional services, the $1,500 thing, that was the same, or were you looking at?
If you go with like school and then like kind of work from left to right,
Right.
sometimes that's easier.
Let me try again, because this is, all right, so I'm
Oh,
under
okay.
Athens and Grafton still.
Yeah, is this in the west?
This is under Athens and Grafton. Again, these pages are not numbered. And so.
Yeah, they didn't come with numbering, unfortunately.
God almighty.
I need to figure out how to do
We
some
can just number
things
them.
more than I can in Cognitive.
Well, welcome.
Yeah.
Preschool teacher.
And I don't know the database of the finance. You need to in order to build a report.
You make sure that that specific note goes to the, both the audit and the SOS lady whose name
Yep,
is escaping
yep,
me. I
Yeah,
assume there'll be a modification of that way.
okay.
All right, that's, no,
Well,
that's,
no, I have to
that is out
contact
of, that's,
Tech.
I'm being out of order. You guys have additional questions?
I have to contact tech support and
Well,
ask them
we
to
just,
add that.
on Melissa's excellent suggestion, we're just numbering the pages.
Yeah, that's never a bad idea.
Yeah,
Get on literally the same page.
that's a good idea, sorry.
To our public, this is most unusual.
Yep.
That all tied up in the various difficulties with the
It's just hopefully I'll do this right.
software and accounting and all of that.
It's
kind
for
of
two,
stuff.
Paul. You
No, it's
just-
not.
It goes 13, 14, 15.
14,
Yeah.
14, 14.
I don't have very many of these, but it's just a few that struck me as,
This was
Well,
the-
it's
This is the reason why I emailed.
It's
make sure
frustrating,
you
the
guys have
software
email.
can't give us a
If you could.
decent report. We have to go to a second software to get.
Okay, I have 22 pages. Great.
Well, if we all agree on that, that's a step in the right direction.
But the
I have
backside would be
21.
22.
and the backside would be 22.
Oh,
I'm with you on
Because you
that.
started with
This-
0.
Wait,
Your numbering started with 0.
I started with 1.
Oh,
Oh, that was a scribbling to make my pen work.
oh, look at this first. So what
Anyway,
page were
this-
you on?
This,
America, this is your public service that's at work.
it's literally on the sixth piece of paper. Oh.
Oh,
I
I
wonder
see
if
what
I
I- did I
put,
mess
I
it up?
put it in Excel, I can add page number.
Yeah, but it's fine, let's
Look,
just,
this is
let's,
3 and 5.
let's go with the pain we've got rather than add new pain.
Okay,
It's 5431. It's a 62% increase. It's non-technology.
what page?
The sixth page.
6th page?
Thank you, Edie, for being patient.
Yeah.
I'm gonna just skip
5, 3, 4, 1.
5431 or 5431. It's where the increase is $7,700. I was just curious.
What are we repairing and
I
maintaining?
would guess that that has to do with all the boiler work.
That makes absolute sense, it's about the right number.
Okay, good, thank you.
Yes, because it was, yeah. It was around 7, I was asked about that just yesterday.
And if you go to then page 9, these are just, it's all under professional educational services, other professional services, a whole host of increases, but they're 200%, 119%, 900%. So something unusual in that area.
They're all a little bit different. I don't know about the cash in lieu of
Uh-huh.
was not my doing.
No,
Yeah.
that's mine.
But when you get to the 5322,
Mhm.
504 EST services,
Mhm.
that's just budgeting for ongoing. I've changed that since when we started back in November due to student needs. So that's like when we have students on a 504 who require additional assistance and or district. placement.
Now, if you look at 5341, is that a typo?
Say those numbers again.
5341, it's the fourth thing down.
Non-technology repair.
That's what we're talking
No,
about.
other professional services, 5750, then it goes to 57,000, then.
It looks like it may have had a 0 added to it by accident.
Yeah, I would assume so.
Yeah.
Well, that's a big,
You want
And I missed that when I was going through it, because I was
You're
trying
going
to.
to still go
check
through
the-
this all by hand, aren't you, Edie?
Yeah, I have to.
Just, again, for the record, this is the type of technology, these are the type of things that you didn't have to do back in the 1980s when we
Right.
first started having PCs.
So this is a number that will affect the whole of the budget.
Mm-hmm.
So just to speak to like what Edie was saying about, I think missing it or not. No, never mind. I'm just trying to cross compare the different versions that I have. Because we had, at one point, e-finance had put middle school tuition
Thank
and
you.
whatnot, had shoved that into direct instruction. And the middle school portion of special ed and or 504 services that used to be in kind of its own separate world. When Edie and I had talked on Tuesday, we found that that line, other professional services, had been bumped up because of that. And then now I see that they were able to fix that piece, and so they pulled out something from there. But obviously that line needs some attention, and as we're going through, we should also make sure that
So
the other
that
money is still accounted
322,
for. That is, yeah, the 5341.
oh yeah, I think that's just had an extra zero added.
I don't think so, because on Tuesday,
Oh, okay.
that line was, well, it said in FY20 it was 11,050, so it combined some things to make that happen.
It combined I wasn't able to, the way the Cognos report was set up, I wasn't included, or able to include the level, so the age.
Okay.
So it took all your 7th and 8th grade costs and dumped them in with your elementary.
Mhm.
And I also couldn't pick program, so to keep regular ed from special ed. So I asked the tech support that built our reports, and she put it in, and I was able to get it to break it out. I'd like to get rid of all these blue lines, but
Just to walk us through, in brief, we now have confidence that all the middle school costs are in fact not mixed up with any of these other things.
no, and neither's preschool. That's all out.
And that's both, and the middle school stuff for both schools are pulled out. Okay, just because I
Yep.
want to make sure.
So these lines, though, that we're talking about from, 5321 down through this 5431, Doug, there's still maybe some question, Edie and Doug, we may need a little verification. That's where,
Okay.
that's where, Edie, you think it might just be a zero?
Well,
that was
I
added?
thought it looked like, because that's what it looks like, 5,750 became 57,500 with one additional zero, but,
But Doug's still talking about the 504.
I
just
think
above it.
that probably, the 504 is true. That's
Okay.
accurate
Okay.
to what I put into there.
Okay.
That was intentional.
and you
But-
think that 57.5 might be too?
I think that may be what was original. I'm just looking at my crib notes here.
Yeah, because I don't know about the kids.
Okay. So we will just need to know that, because we want to keep, because the thing we approve is the bottom line, and I just want to make sure that the bottom line number that we ask our board to approve is the actual number and
Right.
is accurate. Are there any other questions? So
Well,
before I
he's
ask-
trying to check.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's fine.
Almost
No,
there.
he's checking to see.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that should, you're right, Edie, it should go back to 5750. That was the 5th grade environmental as of
Okay.
like last year, before all the line names changed and stuff like
Okay.
that.
Yep,
And
yep.
so it used to be 52, and then it was supposed to be 5750, and that was most likely me that entered it erroneously.
Alright.
And then with the middle school thing, it kind of got hidden for a while
Well, it's
until they
pretty
pulled it back
hard
out.
with all those numbers.
Yeah.
So.
So,
So that's going to be
so it should be 5750,
approximately
not.
another 50,000
Correct.
savings
Yep.
in this
Okay,
budget.
yes. Which I was kind of. I walked this stuff through manually with the team the other day. because I don't have any confidence at all in these spreadsheets, and you know, walk them with Edie walked them through with Chris and with Lynn, because it was the only way I was able to manage Mr. Detrius here.
Not really.
Detritus?
You know, I've never used the word except when I've read it and written it. So is it detritus? Okay.
That's the way I read it.
Probably is. I will defer.
Can we look at page 15 for a minute? And we've got the prior year deficit of
Yeah,
115,000.
make sure that's properly rolled.
And the approximately $300,000 surplus from Westminster, not yet audited, from 2019, wouldn't be reflected until the next year's budget. Is that correct?
No, in your revenues, that surpluses go in your revenues.
Okay.
What I did was I took a look at your budget and then I filled in what we anticipate getting. I have for a surplus for last June, 261,407. I contacted the AOE this week. I think some of them are on vacation, but I never received a small schools grant calculator
Oh, dear Lord.
where I go through and I enter all the information and it gives me what the grant will be.
And it's changed. So.
And I'm guessing they've done away with it.
The small schools grant situation changes for us because we consolidated.
It shouldn't, because Grafton is still one of the outlying schools.
Okay, because
And educationally, you meet the requirements. You also meet the requirement for location. But they did not send me one.
would you, I mean. well,
They
how-
won't be back till Monday.
Well, so
But I have a
what do you recommend
feeling,
here?
I'm not putting anything in for small schools grant.
So-
I don't dare.
So as a consequence, when I go to pre-town, I can't tell people this is the actual number, this is this, because we're trying to get people, here's the thing. Unless I'm prepared to bring everybody back in for yet another damn meeting,
No.
so to speak.
I mean, I understand.
I have to warn a meeting with a budget. I'm running out of days.
Right.
I have to warn a meeting with a budget, with a number, with a tax sheet that gets distributed, now. And I want to make sure that we're doing something that is in fact accurate, and it
Yeah.
sounds like we're going to have a little fuzzy on the accuracy.
Well, I went in and I looked everywhere on the AOE. Nowhere does it say that small school grants are still available.
Then-
There is nothing for FY '21. 20 is the last year that I could grab the formula.
What is the dollar difference between that and now? How much did we get a small schools grant last time?
Athens and Grafton together got 90,000.
So we have a $90,000 variable that we can't nail down. That's kind of a big variable. All right, well, that's.
So my feeling is that you're probably not going to get it. I do not want to take a chance and put it in.
What we,
Um,
to not to cut you off,
yep,
what we may want to do is have on or warning the ability to modify the budget by $90,000 if we learn between now and April 9th that we do have $90,000. That seems only fair.
well, the only thing you really need is the bottom line for your warning
Yep.
and the equalized pupil cost and increase.
But you
The
have,
budget doesn't have to be done until it needs to go to print so that it can be sent to the voters and be in their hands 10 days prior
All-
to
all-
the vote.
All that notwithstanding, we are approving a budget tonight.
Okay,
And what that means, though, is it may mean that we approve a budget tonight, we get a $90,000 happy surprise in March 10th. And we say, gosh, we've got a $90,000 happy surprise. I want to have people to have the option of saying, now that we know that we've got this happy surprise, I want them to at least have the option of saying, yeah, we like being taxed, so we'll just pass that right through. Or, yeah, maybe we don't, and we'd like to reduce the total budget by $90,000. I want people to have that option.
okay. Do you want the bad news?
I thought that was the bad news.
This year's financial stability grant, which is linked to the small schools, which is if your enrollment drops 10% or more, you're eligible for it.
I know we're not getting that because we're combined.
No, you were supposed to get it. You would have gotten 70,000.
Mm-hmm.
They repealed it.
Yeah, I talked to Dr. French personally on that one.
So because they repealed the financial stability grant, this year we're short 70,000.
Yeah, I was aware of that.
So this budget bottom line that is $115,000 less than last year swallows up the $160,000 revenue.
No, revenue's separate. Don't get them mixed.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, the revenue is, has to be kept separate, and there's no
Well,
revenues in the expenditure.
To Doug's point, the bottom line, what we're asking voters to approve, we have gone to some strenuous length to make cuts. I've bullied my principals to make this happen. And, well, yeah, that's true. Anyway, still done it. I am concerned that when we get down to the bottom line numbers of what we're asking people to write a check, that all that work basically is getting blown all to pieces because of these two, the lack of the small schools grant, the lack of the stabilization fund. You know, the state put out this big statement about how, oh gosh and golly, all the average budgets in schools are going up by 5.7%. Isn't this the most terrible thing? What they didn't tell anybody was the reason they're going up is because that's how much money they pulled out of local budgets. And so they're asking taxpayers to pick it up. We made the cuts and it's not going to show up at all. And that, I just think people should know that.
Jack, I was on a question and we've gone.
Sorry.
Okay.
No, and that's fine, it's just into other details here. And so my question had been about the prior year deficit, which is shown here as 115,000.
Yep.
And I'm trying to figure out where the surplus is.
On the revenue sheet.
And so on the revenue sheet, I see 138.
39, yep, or 138. What I did, and you all can do whatever you wanted, I need to make some kind of decision on this. I took the difference of what you pay or taxed for the ed spending last year and what your ed spending was going to be this year. And I put enough of your surplus in to keep the ed spending level funded.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were doing.
Yeah,
But
because I have no idea what you want to do with the surplus. So you have 123,000 left in Westminster surplus.
There's also money in some sort of fund in Grafton. Do you know any? I had Kim Record was supposed to ask you about that. Did you not have that conversation? It's like $20,000.
I haven't talked to Kim, no.
Could you do me a favor?
You called her? There's 20,000?
I believe that was the number. I could be,
Oh, is that left
Is
in
that
the
our
Grafton
surplus?
account? No, that's just
Oh.
cash in the account.
yeah.
Okay, because Darlene just brought in the balance of her account because it went away last year. And so that's the balance she has. That needs to come to us and be deposited for cash flow in the
Do
Union
me this
Elementary.
favor, talk to her. That's
Yeah,
all
I will call her.
That's,
Yeah,
Alright.
it's not, it's
Okay.
just the cash that was left in the
I
checkbook.
was just hoping. All right, I want to bear in mind that it is 6:45. We have an agenda of items that have to be discussed as part of the larger board meeting. And I'm going to be calling this, I would like to call this meeting reluctantly to a close and open up the regular session and have this be the new item 1, which is continuation of budget discussion. Because I don't think we should go more than 15 minutes without calling the other meeting to order.
Bless you.
So, even though we are still in discussion, and even though we do not have a recommendation yet, I would entertain a motion to adjourn this so that we can open up the regular meeting of the Athens, Grafton, Westminster wonderfully consolidated meeting. So I'm looking for a motion.
Yeah, so moved.
Any objection? Without objection, I declare us adjourned at 6:43. And we are now starting the WNESD rescheduled board meeting. It is the 20th of February, and we are meeting unusually in the Cherry Hill space that we have our normal NSU meetings, because we've had a lot of meetings today and they've all been so much fun. So with I'll entertain any is there any public comments? Hearing none. Adjustments to the agenda?
I wonder if we might consider an adjustment, which is to continue the budget committee discussion in this meeting.
I think that's exactly what we're going to do. Any other adjustments that anyone sees?
I don't know if we need to adjust that because we have approved the FY21 budget.
Yeah, but
This
we're
can be
just
the
moving it to,
discussion.
then we can just continue the discussion. But combine those two and move it up to number 1.
Okay.
And for the record, we will note that we have Edie Cole here. We are hoping to have Chris Pratt here at a future point, because there are a number of other items on our agenda that will require his guidance. But we can continue the discussion of the budget now, and are there further questions from where we left off?
Do we want to knock off the short items first?
Oh, I can knock off the last one. It's too late to approve a tuition. That's due to the state by January 15th. So my recommendation this first year coming, or FY21, is that if you should get a tuition student, which you haven't had one in the almost 10 years I've been here, but if you should get one, you just use the state average.
Well, it sounds like by default we'll have to, because we didn't make any changes. So I
And
guess.
you needed a budget done before you
Right.
could do the tuition, so.
All right.
Okay.
Edie, just for future reference,
Yep.
when we have when we come back next year and do this all again, that's one of the hard deadlines I didn't have on my sheet of,
Yeah,
you
I
know,
know.
of checkoffs, and I might have had us finesse, because I think you actually can set one without having a budget, because you can set it below
Yeah.
or above your budget.
Correct.
So we should just make sure we have that and have
Okay.
it on our list, because it's just one more thing that's fallen off the truck this year.
Yeah, I forgot about that, because we usually set it when we approve the budget.
Yeah,
Well,
it used to be
we-
February 1st,
Right, but
and
we'll-
they kicked it back.
My point simply is that
A reminder.
we can approve a number
Mm-hmm.
out of thin air, because we've done that in the past. We can't set it over the amount, I think, but we can set it
Right.
under, we can just set one.
We can use the FY21 budget to calculate.
Let us just make sure. All right,
Okay.
so that is addressed and off the list. Is there anything else anybody sees?
As we continue the budget
Then let
committee
us,
discussion.
then let us continue the budget
What
discussion.
what I'm looking at is, we found simply an error in one line.
Yep.
That therefore leads us to adjust the budget figure that we're working with by approximately 50,000. We need to get that figure so that we can
It's
carry this forward.
51,750
Is that a
So-
plus or a minus?
minus,
So we're reducing it.
So we're reducing the budget by another $51,750.
Okay.
And that we should therefore
Okay.
reflect in what our
Bottom
proposed
line
overall
is.
budget is.
yeah, and it'll change your tax sheet, it'll change your revenues, it'll
Exactly.
change
Okay,
everything.
yeah, and we'll have to clean
That's
that
really
up.
the bottom line that we're
It's a
trying
it's a
to.
bottom line number. Are there other items here that, I have one question, but I want to make sure my colleagues have got theirs first.
Just that I want us to have that figure as we move forward. in
Okay.
this- in
Is
this
it
discussion.
51,750 even?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. Now, I want to make sure, there are a lot of, and some of these are clearly artifacts of the new e-finance system. But we have a whole slew of SU assessments that are 100%.
Right, because they've never been under the Union Elementary Code. They've always been split between Athens and Grafton.
And here's the thing.
So they have to be coded differently now.
So here's the thing.
Yeah.
One of the conceits that we have been working with last year, and I hope to do this year,
Right?
was to be able to have these budgets laid out as two separate budgets that are added together. The reason why this is important is because, as thin a possibility as it is, there is the possibility that the courts will say, yeah, you know what, Athens, Grafton, Westminster, you're right. You're now split back up. So we are going to need to be able to split back up all that stuff.
See, legally, I can't do that because you have merged.
But I'm saying, if they unmerge you, we will be splitting it back up. And the question for you is, do you want to be able to have that? Is there a way to?
I have a spreadsheet that I can break it back out.
Okay,
That's good enough.
that's fine for me.
Yeah,
I
that's
just want to make
perfect.
Yeah.
sure.
And
So that was my last question about the budget.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. I got a couple.
Okay.
Budgets are personnel and their policy. There are two items that we will be talking about later on in our agenda. One of them is that involves a important staffing change that we anticipate happening next year. Not one I'm happy about, but one that seems to be foreordained because the staffing change person has, I think, signed his agreement. We'll talk about this a little bit more detail, but for now, people should be aware that Doug Kusius is heading off into the folks in White River, and we will be losing him.
We will miss you, but your commute is gonna be wonderful.
And I'm hoping the board is better behaved than it used to be, but perhaps it is. Maybe the stories are wrong, but then again, you're a charming fellow. I'm sure that they'll all do absolutely what you want them to do. Why is this important? It's important because there are a couple of configurations that suggest themselves. Oh yes, that suggests themselves if this happens. We may still have two principals. We may have a principal and a part-time principal. We may have a principal and a lead teacher. This is the sort of thing that boards normally would have time to think through and do properly, but there is a difference in the bottom line cost of doing one versus the other. And we can either just leave it alone, or we can talk about and have a happy surplus, or we can talk about what that would look like and have it reflected in the budget. What say you all?
Well, I absolutely say we should leave the budget the way it is now with two principals in the budget. I think this is such a momentous decision that it would take a lot of community involvement to discuss it. I think that, so that's my position on this.
Your turn.
Oh, I didn't realize we were going around.
Yeah.
Everybody's playing board chair tonight, it's okay.
I've never thought about this before. You know what I mean? I think I would want time to think about it too.
As the guy who has thought about it, and as the guy who's trying very hard to make numbers my communities are going to all like. I've discussed this briefly with our superintendent to some extent, just to try to figure out what this would look like. Our members of our draft and advisory committee apparently have already talked about this, because they seem to have known. I have no idea how.
Who's the draft and advisory?
Well, Harley, John, I don't know if everybody else did, but I know at least those two seem to have been aware of this, and said, well, you know, for 50 kids in a building.
I don't remember who the committee is, so.
Well, I think the select board hasn't announced who they are, so that would be probably why. So anyway, be that as it may, it's like a really shadow board we're going to be having. I think there's merit in at least making people aware of it, and because it is the sort of thing that if you have a budget hawk, they could make the decision for you, because it is an open meeting where you can make amendments to the budget. You'll recall that was attempted the last time we met. And I'm kind of, and it'd be about a $40,000 change if you went to a lead teacher environment. So is it the unanimous view of this board that we not change that?
My view on what we're going to do going forward, if we are officially made a consolidated union district by the state, is that we should not just decide what to do regarding principal for locations. We should actually, as a community and with the advisory boards, talk about what our visions are for these schools, both of them in the future, because we have a chance to do what we want and do it right the first time. And I think it would be kind of short-sighted to just change the principal leadership level without having that discussion.
Well,
That
this
being
is why
said,
budgets make policy. I always say that people
that
don't appreciate
being
that.
said, I don't know if this budget is going to be amended at the meeting. I have no idea And what happens if it's amended in one town but not another?
Here's what happens, just again to remind everyone. As far as the state is concerned, at
Oh,
least for now,
the other
we
meeting.
are having one big kumbaya session
That's right,
on
In
April
April.
9th, and there is no separating out of anybody.
right, that's right.
So it will be done in pack. Whoever decides they're annoyed enough to show up, I mean, unless we give them something to be annoyed about on purpose.
I think the community members, since it's been said on TV now,
Yes.
are aware of these possibilities, and rather than make a suggestion, I don't think we have time to look into it deeply. If they're passionate about it, they can amend the budget at the meeting.
Okay.
Oh,
That's, to me, that says that, I get to stay neutral on this one, and I see 3 members that have decided that we won't make that change.
May I just add? That we're looking at a proposed budget that is reduced from last year's budget, that we've done everything we can to protect the educational integrity, the service to all children. We've made a number of changes this year that really do enhance equity for the children throughout the district. I think that I really echo what Jess has said a few minutes ago. Were we to make a change like this, it ought to be in a much more fulsome discussion. And so for 2
Love the word
reasons.
fulsome.
I do too. So for 2 reasons. One, we're taking to the public a reduced budget. And secondly, this is a very large topic that the community will want to weigh in on, I think, extensively. So from a fiscal point of view, I feel good about going with the proposed recommended budget we have right now, and at least letting the public know this is a consideration for discussion in the future. I believe it would be absolutely premature to cut the budget tonight.
All right.
Agreed.
Then, with that sentiment, I won't bring up the other 2 or 3 suggested cuts from members of our community, because I think I can count the votes, and it would not be worth my time. That's fine.
I would think the superintendent should weigh in on the
Well, all of that, I knew all 3 were options. Wanted to make certain people were given the option of saying, is this something we want to touch or not? I'm hearing
but
that
now
the
that
answer
you've
is
opened your mouth about it.
yes. Which I did on purpose. This is going to come out before April 9th. So
If you
let's get this out.
could briefly enlighten us on your 2 thoughts that you were holding.
The issue about whether or not the studio-wide program would be best incorporated in the building at Westminster, as opposed to the overhead associated with dedicating a separate building to it, is another one of those costs that has been raised by your neighbors, and one that has been raised by teachers in both schools. And so I think that it has a fiscal impact. Again, budgets make decisions for you. We can have the discussion here, have somebody bring it up in the meeting, depending on how supportive or hostile they are. And so the question is, do we talk about that here, or do we let it go?
I prefer that you stated it. You might put forward another.
Yeah,
but
I just
don't
wanted
think
to
we-
hear,
Yeah.
not discuss.
Okay,
So-
that's just I'm trying to be attentive to my board's sentiment, and to make sure that we have something that isn't a car crash when we walk to the voters on April 9th.
All right, I need to be excused for just a minute to go to the.
We're ready to make a motion.
Being in 2 meetings simultaneously, I'm going to ask everyone's indulgence and recess the meeting. We are still in the process of discussing the proposed budget that we'll be presenting to the voters on April 9th. And people have additional comments, and I believe, Edie, you were saying that they're asking a question about the surplus.
Yes, how do you want me to handle it? There's 261,407. And I did have 138 of it in as offsetting revenue.
Yeah.
That, the budget has now dropped 51,750. Do you want me to leave the 138 or you want me to drop it?
Let me ask a question. What is the average variation from what we have forecast to what the actual number has been, both negative and
I
positive?
don't think there is an average.
I mean, but there's still a bell curve of some sort here. So
I mean, there's usually a range. The thing that will, so I would say like it's probably like 4 to 7 is like plus or minus. Like you kind of have that circle, if you will, like
right.
Kids coming in, kids leaving. However, it only, not that, you know, for what it's worth, like one, that's, you know, one very expensive tuition rule, because it directly goes into the budget and isn't filtered through the SU special ed budget as an assessment, so that all towns pick it up and it's just this town that hits it hard, and so like they come in, that jacks it quick.
So again, this wait, since we're now consolidated, these assessments are not going to be allocated to the town, they're going to be allocated to the district. So we are a larger body of individuals. The bell curve of variation should be flatter just because of the additional numbers. So the question becomes again whether or not we want to cut that closer to the average of say 5, and you know, beyond that, I think we should be less afraid of deficits and holding money year after year that we actually aren't spending.
Does this revenue report reflect the anticipated loss of these small schools grant? Okay.
Yeah, as you can see, there is no small schools grant under FY21.
I didn't know if it was renamed with the new new thing.
Nope.
Well, to Edie, when we talked through the revenue before and the budget, we saw a making up of a deficit from a year ago shown in there, about 117,000.
The expense, yeah.
We showed in revenue about 138.
Correct.
You're saying that this is, for the public, this is a surplus from what was the Westminster School budget.
Yes.
It's now in the
FY19's
correct
surplus.
So where does that money sit? You're indicating that we don't have it reflected, the remaining 200 or something thousand. We don't have it in the revenue at this time.
It's not revenue, it's part of your fund balance.
Fund balance. Okay, so how is that shown?
Balance sheet.
Okay.
And that's, your fund balance is constantly moving as money goes in and out. It's not a stable number. Your assets change, your liabilities change, your fund balance changes, just like your checkbook at home.
So it's 261,407 that would be showing in the fund balance.
Yes.
That 138, do we subtract that 138 from that?
I did, and all I did was try to figure out how much you wanted to budget, and said, well, I'll level fund ed spending. Because I wouldn't put the whole thing
Right.
in, because it's going to cause your taxes the following year probably to spike, especially with the repeal of the financial stability grant. But Doug makes a good point. A tuition reserve isn't a bad idea. I know Rockingham put money into a capital reserve. You have, I think about 26 left in your capital reserve for the roof at West West.
We used to have a sinking fund at Grafton, Athens.
Yeah.
But it was, it was more like $20,000 accumulating. It wasn't, $200,000.
Right.
The reason I'm going through this is we know the average cost per student is, again, with variation, is around $18,000. If we assume that we have a variability of 5, it would certainly be defensible to keep $100,000, and there would be a whole lot less defensible to keep $200,000.
Correct.
So again, the question is, I think that if we have money over that $100,000, we ought to return it to the taxpayers. That's my personal view.
Yep, you have another 23,000 on top of the 138 that would leave with 100,000.
So, but I would, if we change that number to the 100, what would be the change to our bottom line?
It doesn't change the bottom
Yeah.
line, it just changes the amount that's being taxed, the ed spending. The bottom line doesn't change. It has to match the expenditures.
I know that we talked about the idea of using that money for something different at a different meeting, and it was advised not to, based on the
Right.
people in the room and the experience and the history of what had happened when not enough money was in that.
Yeah, but that was zeroing it out entirely, and it was the idea that if you ran the closest possible number that you could hope for, that would be we decided, just because we could, to that we were going to spend according to having only one principal. We decided because we could, we were going to change studio oil. We decided because we could, we do all these other changes, and decided that magically there would be no variation in our most optimistic number for tuition students. That's the kind of stuff that had been done at the high school at one time, and at the Rockingham board, I think years and years ago, and it was bad. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about just trying to be as accurate as we can with enough to not guarantee a deficit, but to hit what we think should be the number, not just generate a big surplus every year.
My only thought on that is that this surplus was actually generated by the Westminster School District.
Mm-hmm.
And
It's share and share alike.
with the unsettled Act 46 lawsuit, I do think a tuition fund for unexpected numbers. But when you mentioned returning what's left to the taxpayers, that's returning it also to taxpayers who didn't pay it.
Well, we're not going to be returning. We're not going to be returning the money that we're paying for our debt and for the all that. We're not returning that to taxpayers.
Well,
either.
the 138 is going, we've sort of already spent or planned on. We planned on the 138, so that leaves another
123.
Yeah. So really it will be 23 returned to the taxpayers, which is not a lot per taxpayer. But
It's not zero.
But it gets your ed spending down, which works into the formula to reduce the tax rate.
is that a noticeable reduction? 23,000 out of
Probably not a huge reduction,
It's a
but
couple-
it'll
it's-
do it
out
a
of
little.
7 million, 23,000 is not much.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yes, share and share alike. We are paying the, what was it, 151 that Westminster
Yeah,
brought
something
in.
like that.
But I don't know if I'm ready to decide to just give that back to the taxpayers. That sounds terrible.
I was gonna say,
That
I have
sounds
to let the
terrible.
record state.
Yes. To taxpayers who didn't pay for it, who didn't manage their budget such to create a surplus.
Okay,
I don't know if that would be particularly popular with all the people, and I don't know myself.
well, but you're
How-
gonna make a vote on this in a couple minutes.
I know.
So think about it.
But I do think middle school tuition is a bigger unknown for Westminster than it is for Grafton. Because
Well, for the
Grafton's never had
community.
4 to 7 kids move in at once.
Oh, actually, no, we have. I've done that one.
Not
We
lately.
had like $143,000 error deficit because of that.
It is, I think having the 100,000 set aside for middle school tuition is probably a good idea.
Okay, so we've got consensus on what these numbers are.
And then we have 23 left.
Right, so we do throw the 23 in the pot. It's not a big amount, but it's something.
I mean,
So-
it's always nice to have the capital thing in there too. Just, I don't know, you guys have water and boiler things going on,
No,
just as another thought.
this is one of the reasons why when we get these advisory committees on, one of their list of agenda items can be long-term planning. I want to know what we're going to be spending on capital stuff the next 10 years. One of the reasons why one of our capital planning fellow for Grafton wants to be on this board, on the advisory committee. I'm thrilled.
You know what, if it was my motion to make, I would actually go with the capital reserve.
Okay,
Because,
it is your motion to make. You just did.
oh,
Okay.
he's gotta get the exact number though.
Well,
What's that? For the capital reserve, you want that 23,166 in there?
Sure.
there we go. All right. So, anything else, boys and girls?
What do you two think about
Well, there's a
that?
motion on the floor, is that correct?
There's a motion on the floor.
There is a motion on the floor to
allocate
put
that.
$23,166 into the capital reserve fund.
Any further discussion?
That's one motion.
Yes.
Oh, we need a motion for the 100,000 to the middle school, what do we call that? Middle school tuition fund?
Well, what's?
Excess middle school tuition?
Did we make it, has that been a formal motion yet? That
No.
$100,000? Then let's take yours. It's a
Off the
motion.
table?
Oh, no, let's do that one, then let's do the next one in that order, because I'll assume that Cheryl will make the, or one of you two, ladies, Melissa, will make the motion on the other item. So 23,000.
So just vote for $23,166 to the capital reserve.
So discussion?
Yes, that's what we're on now.
And so with these two possible changes, one in the form of a motion right now, Edie, are we therefore increasing the budget by this amount?
No, we're decreasing.
We're decreasing it?
By the 51,750,
We've already done that. yeah.
and the 138's the same.
Okay,
Because this
So
is money
your
we
ad
have.
spending's going down by 51,750.
All we're doing is putting money into boxes.
Right, this is
Yeah.
money we have in the checking account.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're gonna keep it in the checking account, but earmarked for capital
right.
All right.
expenses.
Any additional discussion? All in favor? Say aye. Opposed? We expect a meeting suddenly? What's happened here?
I'm still wanting to talk. through
Okay,
just a
then
little
I
bit.
thought, then my apologies. I thought we were,
Right.
go ahead.
So with all the calculations going on over here, we had talked about reducing the budget as originally proposed to this committee tonight and then now to the board by the 51,750 because of a mathematical error in the budget. That's why that 51,750 was brought out. Now we're talking about some additional changes to the budget, and I just want to make sure all of us fully understand what we're talking about here.
Oh, this should have no effect on the budget.
It won't have effect on the bottom line, but it will have effect on the allocations, is all we're doing is saying why it's, our budget's gonna be X, and the reason it's gonna be X is because of all this stuff you see here, plus these little changes that we're making, one of which is a capital reserve fund, one of which is this contingency for variability and tuition.
Do we
So I
have
wanna-
to allocate it?
Go ahead.
Do we have to allocate it to anything? I guess that's,
Yeah, you can't just keep it. If you don't allocate it, it automatically goes against your budget for next year. And you can't allocate it. You have to have a separate warning article in the voters, because as of July 1 of 2019, that surplus became the voters. But you get to ask the voters
If they would like to set up these two funds, and
that's
that-
what, yeah, that's what I meant for the,
So we are going to have on our warning two items. One is, shall the voters approve this $100,000 tuition contingency fund, and shall the voters approve 23,000, et cetera, for this?
but we have to do something with it. We can't.
Well, either that or the taxpayers get it.
Or we
Yes.
can,
It automatically rolls into next year's budget.
Right. And that means that that means we ask the voters for less money.
But then if you should get 4 or 5 tuition kids, then we're gonna be bringing a deficit back to them,
Yeah.
which,
Just want to say I'm finding the position of being budget hawk very unnatural to myself. This is not,
no, so we can,
so that 261 rolls right into your next year's
Right.
budget unless you ask for their approval to do. And I think the tuition reserve makes really good sense and it protects the taxpayers in the long run.
Right.
And which is what we want to do. And with the boiler issues that Gary's been experiencing at Grafton, a capital reserve isn't a bad thing because
I just talked to him about it just the other day. Apparently
yeah,
we're going to, that's why we may also talk at some future meeting about heat exchange units for doing something, because there's currently, we're coming up to the end of some useful life issues.
So still in the spirit of discussion about this, the impact on the taxpayers, you've already said, Edie, that this projected tax sheet will be changed. Can you talk through how that?
okay, so the line number 1 will be reduced by your 57,000
Right.
or 51,750. And so that will trickle down. I will leave your surplus alone, so for local funds, you still have the 159,282.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Show me
So
where
that's line 9.
Okay, thank you.
And then line 11 will be reduced by the 51,750. And then the rest of the formula I can do on my calculator upstairs, not on this thing.
Do we need to do that for the motion when we?
No.
Okay.
No, I can get this all fixed tomorrow, get it sent out to you. And I'll make sure Melissa and Jessa, it goes to their
Proper.
WNESD, because it went to your home.
Wynn and Charles have it, because I'm concerned that with all the changes around that we've made, that's entirely within the realm that they were sitting at the school tonight wondering where everybody was.
so do we have to vote on this tonight without knowing the tax?
It'll go down, it'll probably go down less than a penny and a half.
I think we're good for that. That's not enough to hesitate.
And while
What do
we're
you think, Cheryl?
Well, while we're still looking at this, you've got these prorated homestead union tax rates, and they are showing lower for Athens, for Grafton, they're showing an increase for Westminster.
Correct.
And
I do have to look at the FY20. I was quickly putting in FY21. It is based on the percentage of kids that you have in pre-K through 8. That's what the percentages are in red.
What?
But I adjusted the FY21 by your CLA. I think when the sheet came from the AOE, it doesn't appear that the FY20 was adjusted by the CLA.
That FY20 number looks a little wonky to me.
Athens is really high.
Well, I not only that, but I recall that Grafton's was higher than, I could swear Grafton's was higher than.
And $1.11.
Than $1.11, because I remember it was having jumped by like 20%, and that's not possible with that number. Although, maybe it was
did
like,
this
maybe,
before.
Maybe, no, it was like
I had to
08
pull
no,
up
it was
the
like,
meeting.
it was like 089 before we had the merger, so that is it, right? It was, I remember now.
Okay.
Okay, that is right.
Well, Athens struck me as being odd, so I'm gonna look and make sure the CLA has been, because Athens and Grafton, their CLA is over 100%. And Westminster's really close to 100%, so, that there's a minimal effect, but there is an effect.
Okay, and we're not hitting any state threshold numbers with any of this, all right?
No, because you get to claim all the things in red on line 14, 15, and 21, which brings you down below the threshold of 18,756.
Okay.
I think they need to make that a little
Because I was looking
smaller.
at the prorated income cap stuff, and it's still, okay.
No, the threshold for next year is 18,756. It's that tiny print right above line 22.
And you're saying that line 24 will be reduced by 14, 15, and 21, so that we're under that number?
The line 13 will be reduced by the 51,750.
Right?
But that's, of course, that's your 11 divided by your equalized pupils.
Okay.
Now, we get to, because you're actually over slightly the threshold,
That's what I'm talking about.
Wait a minute, that's
you
what I was
get
asking.
to reduce your eligible construction costs per equalized pupils. So that's the principal and interest on the Westminster bond divided by the equalized pupils. On line 15, those were the special ed costs in excess of 50,000. So any student that went over the 50,000, the state pays 90%. The school pays 10%. That 10% number we get from the state, and it's actually divided also by line 12. So there's another $9 that comes out. And line 21 is the new OPEB or other post-employment benefits for teachers that are new, haven't been vested in the Vermont teacher retirement. We have to pay $1,300 approximately a year to help pay for their benefits for when they retire. That number I also get to divide by the equalized pupils. So you had the 316, the 9, and the 35 that came out of the 18,880, which brought you below the threshold. And
Yeah, we're cutting it off because, okay. The one reason I ask about this is I recall it wasn't that long ago, where there was an attempt to get below the cap by just not having a realistic budget, and this may have been a sped thing at some point, and I just want to make certain that we're not going to state that we're below the cap this year and actually be spending above it.
No, that's what that formula is there for.
Okay, I just hate to be matching it what it looks like to the dollar,
Nope.
which is pretty close to what we're doing here.
Well, if you subtract those three items, it's down to 18,520.
All right.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay, it's my error.
So if I divide this by the 354.05
Okay.
for equalized pupils, you're at 17, you're now at 18,734.
And
That is your
As
new,
opposed and
the
thre-
1880.
yeah, and the threshold is 18,756, right?
Yes. So this will further reduce it, lines 14, 15, and 21. But that 51,750 brought you down more.
Yeah, I would just mention to my colleagues that one of the other reasons I worry about this stuff is because if you're not sufficiently below the cap and there's any variation, if we set a budget that's this height, you don't have a whole lot of wiggle room next year. Next year will be bad. And because you really, you can't do anything next year. You can't do any new programs next year. You can't do anything next year because you won't have the money to do it next year based on the anticipated change in what that cap will be. So, not again to sound like the House Republican here, but I just want to make certain that that everybody walking in knowing that's what this means.
Yeah, because if you did run into that, you would end up in a double taxation.
Okay,
Yeah, we don't.
I've done my duty. All right, fine. We still have motions on
We
the,
got the motion on the floor.
motion on the
We
floor?
have the 23,166 to capital reserve fund. Is the motion.
What was it?
I think $23,166.
Yep, perfect. Thank you.
And I will anticipate that Chester will explain why there's pennies in it and allocation fund. Fine, let's do it.
That's the number she gave me.
Okay. So any further discussion on this? Feel good, everybody? Ready to vote? All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we have a unanimous vote in favor. The next is the tuition contingency fund, because that'll have to be an item on the warning as well.
I move that we allocate $100,000 to a tuition contingency fund.
Do
Do we have to specify middle school?
and do we have to specify that it's from the leftover money?
No, I think we just,
I can't remember the actual language, but yeah, you do put in the language that from the FY19 surplus,
okay.
we would like the voters to approve putting this
Okay.
into a tuition reserve for unexpected 7th and 8th grade tuition students that move in,
Josh, do you have that?
something like that.
Okay.
That's where the other money came from too.
All right.
So the other.
Yeah,
The
both funds should
23,166.
have that language in the warning, so we need to be very tidy about this. All right,
Thank you.
any discussion on that item? Seeing none, moving to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Got a unanimous on that. So now comes the moment we've all been waiting for. Let's approve a budget or not.
I think I have the,
For a motion?
well, is that the number minus 51,750?
67, 92, 180s. Yep, perfect.
All right, Jessa, it looks like I'm looking for you to make,
Yeah. I move that we ask the voters to approve a budget of $6,792,186.51.
now that we haven't been having any, but any discussion? Hearing none, I will ask for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any in favor but just whining about it? All right, and we have unanimous on that.
We have a budget.
We have a budget. Now, we have, do we want to, at this point, go and tidy up our warning, or do we, or do we have other items? Actually, we can't do the warning because we still.
The tax calculation goes
Tax
forward.
calculation, yeah.
So
Do we have a number on the tax calculation, Edie, or do you have to go upstairs and do something?
I need to go upstairs, I can do it though.
Well, since I'd like us to get that tonight, if you wouldn't mind,
Okay,
that would be
nope.
lovely. And what we
I
can
don't
do,
mind at all.
while we're doing that, is we have other items on our agenda, and let's move to them. By the way, if, we should note that Liz isn't here to do a principal's report, and I'm not sure, if you want to do a principal's report, or we're going to talk about you, because, your situation is what it is.
It's up to you guys. I already know the information.
we didn't put it on the agenda.
I was thinking, I just realized it wasn't there, and where I was reading my agenda, just my computer just died, so I actually have to go to paper now.
Yeah,
I
it's
hate
done.
paper. All right.
And executive.
Okay, we are, let's see, we've done the budget, we've heard the budget community, we've approved a tuition because we had no choice. We are by default on 4A, which is the legal opinion of Mr. Slayson on the legality of the attached warning articles. And Mr. Slayson sent one additional, I can't get it, my computer died.
This was on the drive.
He sent me I think he CC'd everybody on this one item to see if the voters, yes, the town of, well, that's not it. That's the thing that you have approved for your town meeting. That's not.
Right, and this was what was on the drive attached to the agenda for tonight's meeting.
Right. And I will talk about this because I did talk to him about this as well. There was a question as to whether or not the language in the before the voters in Westminster for the Westminster town meeting was overly expansive in terms of what it can give them a responsibility. I got very sage advice, which I'll share with you. And there is from Mr. Slayson, I met him twice on this. His view was the same as the recommendation he had given to the town, because he's also the town attorney, and he felt that the language, if it was ever challenged, if this board or future board ever challenged the authority, that the language was so expansive it would be subject to a summary judgment. Notwithstanding that, his view was if the voters in the town of Westminster wished to pass this, and the select board, even with that advice, decided to pass it, if they want to pass it, have a good day and do it. His view was simply that the language that he had recommended would have been his preferred language. It is the language that was adopted in Athens and Grafton, which basically acknowledges that any commission or committee is advisory in nature and does not have veto power and does not have final say on school activities. Cited me a whole bunch of VSA statutes on the matter, but his view is any town can assert, a town can vote to withdraw from the war in Vietnam, and most towns in Vermont did. It didn't really have that much of an effect, but they did it. And if the town of Westminster wishes to give their committee powers that it probably can't have, they have just nothing that he said he's going to say that they can't assert it, whether or not it's assertable or not, and let it go. So that was his advice, and you guys at the town meeting can point that out if you like, or not, as you prefer, and off we go.
Or you were just stating all of this for the record.
Yeah, stating this for the record. My personal view was, and I had been asked by colleagues in Grafton, actually been asked by colleagues on this committee whether I was going to go to the Westminster town meeting and volunteer to die on the Hill on this, and I just told them that I was going to respectfully decline that opportunity, as attractive as it might have been. So there you go. He did suggest, I'm really very annoyed, he did suggest that we do have some language in amending our interim articles to allow to have on our agenda for that meeting an amendment recognizing that these committees are existing and asking us to seek their advice as we wish. I think to some extent we don't need to do that, but it'd be nice. And the second item was we do not have specific language on our recommendation about our successors. And we need to talk about that a bit, and he and I talked about that, and I'll share this with you, despite the fact I don't have it in my hand. And that is that we have been operating as a transitional board. We are a year more than transitional boards are. We're intended to exist, although there's nothing in the Act 46 that doesn't allow us to continue in this mode for the next 40 years if we like to. I don't think that's a good idea. Should we move to have elections in this meeting, we will need to have that stated in the warning that we will be electing officers.
You're talking about the April 9 meeting, Jack?
The April 9 meeting.
Okay.
And since we have a little bit of time, we'll try to get this into the next meeting. But it should be part of the warning, so we have a short timeline.
Don't the articles of agreement state how officers will be elected?
That's what I'm about to get into. But the fact is, we need to ask our voters to actually do this part. We have never approved the interim articles of agreement. So we need, irrespective of our non-approval of the interim articles of agreement, we need to have language that says, irrespective of our non-approval of the interim articles of agreement, we would like to have a succession board, because otherwise we're going to be stuck doing this until the state Supreme Court, or forever, depending on which comes first.
Right, but so based on what the initial meeting was supposed to be, it'll be elected from the floor at.
Right.
Although that gets defined in the actual articles. That
let me walk you through.
Voted on yet.
A brave front, I'm told, is the best defense in these cases, and that is from our attorney. The way this would work would be, the default articles have the hybrid model that of 2 members reserve seats for 2 members from each district, but all voted in common from the floor. It would be my intention to have those be staggered, and I can't remember now if we determined that they were staggered or not. In other words, they all be elected at the same time with different term endings.
I think they were.
That was, yes, but I think they had dates on them, and that's why I'm concerned, because dates may have already passed. But that is the intent here. If I have to call you in for a 15-minute thing to clean this up before the deadline hits, I just want you to be aware that that may happen.
Can you, first of all, this isn't on our agenda for this evening?
It is with part of, well, when I saw the seeking the legal opinion, I thought it was part of that discussion. So
Okay.
I'm sharing it because that was my erroneous assumption that we were getting guidance on stuff for the upcoming meeting, and I didn't realize it was the town meeting. I thought it was for our April 9th meeting. My apologies.
Oh, no, that's fine, but the deadline you're talking about right now, I'm saying we're not taking
Yeah.
action on this, this is for information,
This
we're
is
discussing it.
information.
But what deadline, did you
Okay,
just
you
address?
have, we're all meeting on April 9th.
Mhm.
We have to warn the April 9th meeting
Right?
40 days before April 9th.
Mhm.
Therefore,
So-
40 days before April 9th means essentially first week in March.
Mhm.
We need to have our warning completed and approved. In fact, it would have been my hope to have had that done tonight. And in fact, what we may have to do, as I'm thinking about this, is approve it and then ask for amendments from the floor. But the problem is you can't ask for amendments from the floor on substantive and restructuring matters.
We should
So,
be electing.
you know, I'm just going to be so unhappy if we can't do the election of new members. I really don't want to be doing this indefinitely.
And that is also Larry Slason's opinion that it puts us on much better legal ground
Yes,
instead of the indefinite transition board.
right, and there's also,
Not for
and
this year.
there's something about just the whole morality of the board that's no longer looking to anybody whose original terms,
Extended.
several which of yours are running out in March, just sort of pointing themselves ad interim, ad infinitum.
Mhm.
That's not okay.
Mhm.
How specific does the warning have to be for?
We can have it just say, to elect members of the, of a board of, to elect school board members for this district, and and we can leave it that, at least we'll have it in there as a marker. And we
It
can
seems like
get-
we don't have much of a choice.
That's kind
the
of
meeting
my
where we
view.
have to,
We really can't let this go on indefinitely, it's not right.
what do you think about that?
I think I want to catch up a little bit. I think I'm hearing that there's been some legal advice that I'm not current about.
The advice was simply, at what point do we put before the voters the option of electing their representatives
Sure.
as opposed to just continuing on and on and on and on?
Mhm.
We could, you know, one of the concerns I have, let me be blunt, is it has been months for the Supreme Court to get around to saying anything. They could go another 6. They could refer this back to Judge Mello if it didn't take another 6. at what point do we say enough already? It's time to have our, either find people to replace us, give some of us a chance to get off the board, whatever it is we want to do. And I want that to be something we can do. This is our chance, unless we're going to call 2 meetings of this very unhappy community of unwillingly collected people together and have yet another vote on something that they don't really want to do to begin with. I just feeling like we should do this once, not do it 2 or 3 times.
I think it does seem like it is getting a little bit uncomfortable being unelected members of a transitional board that's extended themselves by a year.
And,
I do think I would feel better if, I don't like the idea of capitulating to the state and electing members to a so-named board.
we can
but
we can put into this
under
the
protest.
notwithstanding type of language,
Yeah.
and I would be happy to propose that we put in to the agenda of our April 9th meeting that notwithstanding our objection to the formation of this involuntarily consolidated district, that for the purposes of governance, shall the voters nominate and elect members of the school board of the
WNEUESD.
what she said, according to the terms of the interim articles of agreement. And if so, I think that's it. And that should allow us
Have
to.
that, Josh? 'Cause that-
All right.
So you gotta go.
I move that we
That-
put into the warning following article, notwithstanding the objection of the communities of Athens, Grafton, and Westminster to the state-imposed consolidation board, or not the state-imposed school district, shall the voters elect board members for the Wyndham Northeast Union Elementary School District according to the interim articles of agreement. That should do it, I think. And that will, and you could say no, you could say we just love this transitional board, keep us forever. And that would be fine too.
So that's a motion you just made, right?
It is a motion I just made, but it doesn't have a second.
I'll second it.
This is a motion to be warned for the
Put this
April
on.
9th
Or the
meeting.
April 9th
Yes.
meeting.
Yes.
That's the.
And simply because we are, part of our remit tonight is to get a warning done, because we've run out of time.
That's why that's why I think we kind of have to,
I think we kind of have to
otherwise we'll have to call
get another
another
one
meeting,
of
get-
the,
everyone to show up for another meeting to elect board members. So we can be,
and if people here feel that uncomfortable with this, that's fine. And, you know, because there are 2 votes to defeat, 2 votes against will defeat this, and we'll just have them all meet again, you know, in a couple months from now.
So I'm looking at the agenda that was warned for tonight's meeting, and I'm hearing that this action is occurring under 4A.
Part of it is we have to do approve budget and approve the warning, and I don't know why, and that's what the problem is. It's not, approving the warning is not a 4E. And I
we are
think
gonna have to, we've already voted 2 things for the warning that we are going to have to, it is not on here.
So you want, what do you want me to do? You want me to call a meeting like 2 days from now so we can go do that? And just have you all phone in?
Because we already approved the warning for the $100,000 for middle school tuition, the 23,000
We've already done.
and the
Yeah.
budget.
Yeah,
Oh, no,
we-
we didn't do the budget yet because he doesn't have the numbers.
No,
so-
we did do the budget,
But
which
these are,
is bringing back.
but
is the
these
tax
were all pieces for the
But that goes in
warning.
the warning.
Yeah,
We didn't
these
do
are,
the
these are
budget
all pieces for the warning.
So-
Because we can't present this on April 9th if we don't do it right
Right,
now.
I just don't know if we can, I don't-
I didn't realize,
I don't know if we should,
I don't think, how did I not notice that that was not there?
because Larry Slason's opinion about the warning articles is there, but not
100%.
actually warning.
Okay, good, what are we doing?
I will defer to the more experienced people in the room, but I think we should,
Approve the language and just at a later date.
Well, we
approve the
don't have a
warning.
whole lot of later dates, we gotta do, we'll have to do it this, we'll have to do it like Monday or
Is that what
Tuesday.
it is?
40 days from April 9th, or before April 9th, and that's really close to
Now,
March 7th or something.
no, it's not even that, that's 30 days.
30 is the 4th.
Why all these delays have been making me crazy, why I wanted to do this last week.
Monday,
Yep,
we have till Monday.
my personal view is you do it now and you ask for forgiveness if there's a question, because I just think that we can't even get this warned. It's, for having a meeting on Monday.
Mm.
We just, it's not there, it's not doable.
Right.
So we're either canceling the April 9th meeting or doing it
No.
tonight.
We can't do that.
That's
Can we
fine.
adjust the agenda to,
I'm taking a motion for a retrospective adjustment of the agenda to add the erroneously dropped item to approve a warning.
It's adjusted.
Thank
When
you.
you adjusted the agenda, you sort of broadened it, so it was a budget discussion, report of budget committee, approve FY21 budget / warrant
There,
articles.
that sounds great.
And
That's-
the purpose of all of this was to prepare
The
for
warning.
the April 9th meeting, so I
Right.
don't think it's out of order.
Okay,
I
so,
agree
so
with
we're,
that.
all of our experienced people have decided this is just okay. And so.
I would like to make sure the language in the proposed motion that had to do with the voting or electing of board members is really clear about this being in, not an indication of an agreement, you know, as
didn't
we've
we
said
have, we
before.
came up with, I think you came up with that language that we stuck in front of everything.
Absolutely.
Do you have that on
Somewhere
you?
on-
Yeah, Josh does. It's the language that we've used, you know, to always indicate this is not an affirmation of the legality of the forced
Right,
merger.
of Act
We just want to make sure that once again is in here, and it was in the proposed
I can't, if you give
language
me
for the
a-
warning that Jack articulated.
Yeah, it's in past minutes that I could pull out. I could pull it out and include it.
If you'd be kind enough to
You
do
want it at the
that.
end of everything involving an article?
Well, actually, sure. Because the fact of the matter is that we voted our budget under protest last year. We will be doing this under protest because until we have a final judgment, and because people like it, we should continue to protest. I will say that was one of the other pieces of advice I did get from Larry, not recently, but a while ago, which is that we're deep enough into litigation at this point that nothing we do is going to signify to a court that we no longer want to contest it, and we don't have to do it. I think we're doing it at this point simply because we have enough angry people over this thing to begin with that we want to continue to let them know we're angry with them and continue to protest with them. probably doing this for the next 10 years for all I know. So, yeah.
Let me ask another question. We don't have any motion on the floor. We've just gotten ourselves more organized about what it is we've been discussing and why it's relevant and why it's appropriate.
I think I had placed a motion that I believe Jess has seconded to the effect, shall there be an article?
Yes, you did.
And so we are under consideration of that article, which somebody wanted to amend. I'll take the additional disclaimer language as a friendly amendment, and that's what we're going to work with.
Okay.
Booting up the laptop unless Josh can find it faster.
I mean, can I just find it and then put it in?
Yeah, I feel comfortable with that. Just make sure that Sue and Chris have it tomorrow, because we're going to print this. We're going to print up some draft version of this. It won't be the final one, but it's what we're going to use for the meeting on Monday, and we'll have it completely tidied
Just
up.
make sure someone sends it to Sue so she has it.
Yeah, that's just.
Pre-town meeting on Monday. Yeah, it has to be. It
Yeah.
has to be done tomorrow, Josh, because it's
Because
the town
we're printing it up on Friday at
Monday.
Staples.
Yeah.
Well, no, printing it, Friday, Monday, but they're
Yeah.
gonna take it down to Staples.
Let's go ahead and vote on this, and then I've got another question.
Okay, well then it sounds like we're ready for a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, what relief. So now you've got another question.
Well, it had to do with the interim articles of agreement that we've referred to.
Yeah.
And so do we don't have those, or do we?
The interim articles of agreement are our governing document until such time as we amend
The
them.
ones from the state?
They are the ones from the state.
imposed
and-
by the state.
Yes,
Right.
thank you for the,
Right.
and
So those are the govening documents?
Those are the
We don't
governing-
need to warn them?
we don't need
Okay.
to warn them. We certainly don't need to ask the voters to approve them, because
Right.
we all know what will happen if we did.
Yeah.
So
Right.
that's not, and that's why all the disclaimer language. We're not approving the whole thing. We're doing this as a convenience so that we can operate while we're protesting.
Yeah, and it's-
I just think the voters ought to get a chance to decide if we've done a good job or not, because who
Yeah.
knows?
we get to elect their representatives.
Jackie, because I was not here earlier for the meeting, have you
You were
guys had the
fortunate,
executive
yeah.
session yet?
No.
We have not.
No,
No,
we haven't. That's where we're about
We're
to.
hit, and we gotta really roll it along.
We're waiting for Edie with,
Yes, because she's gotta give us the tax rate.
And there is Edie, because the tax rate has to go in the warning.
The tax rate has to go in the warning, that's right.
I'll do it.
perfect timing.
You should have some sort of accompanying music, like when the guy comes to the plate. What your song is,
There you go. I like that snack.
Okay, on that note, is this what we're looking for?
Yep.
Okay, passing those along.
Okay, the expenditures are gonna take me a while, cause I gotta get into e-finance and
Oh, God,
then
those are
rerun
all-
the report.
Well,
And I didn't wanna hold you all up. You did have 79 cents in surplus. I just put it in to offset taxes. And,
What did I not give you?
I have them. No, I have them.
All right,
no, I gave,
this is an update, I think.
No, she just handed it
Oh,
to me.
okay.
I just handed it to both of you.
Fine.
So, yeah, so it did bring down the tax rates, and I was right, I went back and checked. And the FY20 tax rates had not been adjusted by the CLA. So I
There
went
we
ahead
go.
and adjusted them so they make a little more sense. And,
That's more the number I was expecting.
so at least you can kind of see which way they're going. But it's based upon the percentage of kids in the elementary school and junior high. And
So,
on the flip side, your assessment to the high school is the 100% less these percentages,
We're missing
so.
one.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
Oh,
I got
well,
handed a new one.
hold on, I'm gonna, Okay. So just make sure that's the.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
$1.7214.
Yeah, this one's not. This is the old
Okay.
one. Do you have
We'll
any-
shred those.
Okay, yeah, because things are gonna get confusing and
Yeah.
I hate paper. But that 099 number is definitely more what I thought it was.
I haven't
I
good
thought
print
it was
out
089,
again.
frankly. Okay, but that shows that, that we're up a nickel for Westminster.
Down
Yeah,
significantly.
down, well, Athens was the one that got really nailed last time around.
Yeah.
And it's up about, what, about 4 cents, almost 5 for Grafton.
Yep.
But it's reduced for Athens.
Yeah,
Yes.
so, you know. so
And
Ath-
it's gonna fluctuate based on the percentage of kids.
Yeah, but I knew that Athens, he really got in the neck last year, and that was
Yeah.
one of my biggest
Yeah, it
concerns.
changed it a lot when we merged.
Yeah, it changed it a lot for Grafton, and it's gonna change it a lot again, but not as much. And it's not, this year, Westminster's getting a taste of it, it just is. So, all right, there we go.
So this needs to be incorporated into.
Yes, so I need a motion to approve the tax rate and then the numbers of the tax rate, is that correct, Edie?
You need the bottom line of the budget,
We did that.
and then you need the equalized per pupil cost, which is the 18,734.37. And the one calculation I did not do is the percentage of the increase
Yeah. And
from last year's, or this year's equalized, or
all right.
education spending per equalized
Well, we
pupil.
need to get all those so
compared to
that
this
when Melissa makes that
year.
motion,
Mouthful.
she'll have all the right numbers.
730.
Tell them to protest and not make that motion.
I figure we're making, this should be your chant, this is your
I'm
turn.
being peer pressured.
Yeah, that's what I'm doing, it's bullying, is what it is.
Okay, it's a 1.39% increase. That goes into the warning,
So I'll be looking for a motion for a
1.39%.
1.39%, and what was the other number?
The 18,734.37 on line 13. So you need line number 1, line numbers 13, and 1.39%.
So,
That goes into your warning.
so you got that?
Sorry.
It's the 1.39% increase in,
The ed spending per equalized pupils. Such a mouthful.
Even though the actual budget is,
There you go.
the budget is,
Because your equalized pupils came down.
yeah.
About 7, almost 8 kids.
Uh-huh. So, welcome to, all right, so would somebody like to make a motion?
well, this, let me be clear, hopefully, that we did previously approve the budget.
So now
and-
we're adding
And so
this,
we are
This is the
now
warning.
this is the warning.
approving for the warning, the $18,734.37 equalized pupil
Yep, per ed spending. Yep.
per ed spending, which is a 1.39% increase in education spending per equalized pupil.
Yep, over the current year, yeah. And I don't remember the exact wording on the warning, but Chris, I'm sure, has it.
Jesse, you sure you have it? He's looking awfully confident over
From
there.
last year?
No, it's the same as like Rockingham or the high school. the wording
Yes,
is
yeah, we have-
standard by statute.
We have all the standard warning language.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, he's got it.
all right.
So
I still need this to be, I still need this to be voted on.
Yes.
Josh, you got it?
Yeah, was it, you made the motion?
No,
Sure.
and it was using the standard warning language with the number she provided.
Cheryl Charles moved to ask the voters of the towns of Westminster, Athens, and Grafton to approve $18,734.37 and per pupil in education spending, which is a 1.39% increase in equalized pupils.
Ed spending
yeah,
for
ed
equalized
spending for
pupils.
last year.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah, yeah.
Edie, can you make sure Sue gets those exact numbers so she does, for tomorrow when she does up the warning?
Yeah, I can send her an email tonight and
Thank
just
you.
let her know what they came out at.
Oh, man. Okay. So, all in favor of that mouthful?
Aye.
Any objections? Philosophical notwithstanding? All right. Okay, so that is, we are now, we've taken care of all of our public stuff. We're now down to the executive session personnel matter. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. As a mercy to our intrepid cameraman, we tend to do director's comments now and then go into executive session and just report out whatever we might do to Chris. Are we anticipating a vote on anything? We are anticipating. Okay. So, director's comments. This is the time. Melissa.
Well, just to the public, this has been a very difficult year, as we know, from a budget perspective. When we worked through this, even though this has been a difficult meeting tonight, I want the public to know that these numbers are something that the principals and the boards and the staff have been working on for months. So although we found a few things tonight, I want it not to be construed as quite as haphazard as it might have looked at a certain point in time here.
I just want to thank my colleagues for their nearly infinite patience, and that I'm aware that it's been stretched a bit, but we got it done. We are doing people's business, and this is the way sausage gets made sometimes.
Yeah. No, I think I'm all set. Just hope I am appropriately representing the views of the Grafton taxpayers and voters and parents and educators and all those that we speak for here.
All right, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss the personnel matter.
So moved.